a survey just so I can collect feedback on if it was helpful, if there's more information you'd like to know.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Good morning. Yeah, we're live. Good morning. For those of you joining, I know it's early. I'm actually about to facilitate a workshop on assessing your savings plan. Good morning for those of you catching this on the replay. Please share this on all of your social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, here on Periscope. I would greatly appreciate it. For those of you who don't know me, I'll introduce myself in a minute. But again, for those of you catching the replay, thank you for joining, and please share. Awesome. So is there anything in particular that you're looking to get out of the workshop?
Well, for one thing, I wouldn't so much say that I can't save, or my better money management would be how to keep my money instead of always giving it away to someone. You know, like if someone comes to me with a sad story, I'm gonna give it to them. Even if it's my last, I'm gonna give it to them. And I've got to be able to know when to say no and just not give everything I have away.
Okay, I got it.
So that's my big problem.
Okay.
It's not so much.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being generous, but yeah, you do have to
I'm
have
over
boundaries.
generous. Exactly. I'm always over generous. Sometimes I put myself in the hole being too generous.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's one thing to be generous and philanthropic. It's another thing when it goes against, or brings down your quality of living.
Right.
Yeah. So it should never be a detriment to you.
I know, but I haven't learned that yet.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for anything that helped me to learn that. My husband would fuss at me all the time. He said, "You just would never learn." And I don't know. I guess I won't.
Well, that's not true. Yeah, it's different for everybody. So yeah, 3 more minutes. We'll get started. Yeah, the way
Do most of your people be online, or do you have people that come like I am? Do you have?
Well, the workshop is just in person. The last one, which was the first one, I didn't go live just because it was the first one. But I've done like broadcasts before. So for those, I know one's in DC, wanted to participate, but is unable to drive, so that's why. Yeah, okay. I brought that in.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm still trying to, like I have a few people who tune in from time to time. And last week there was about 4 people that came. So attendance fluctuates.
Oh, so you had one last week. Also. Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, this is an 8-part series.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
just caught you on this week here.
Well, I'm glad you did. But yeah, this is the second installment of 8. So I have 2 more in March, 3 in April, and then a bonus one in May. And then that's it.
Oh, okay. What inspired you to do this?
I'll share that.
Oh, okay. All right. I want to get ahead of the game. I'm sorry.
You're
Stop
fine.
me asking questions.
You're fine. You are in the room. Yeah. So yeah, I'll talk about all of that
Okay.
in my introduction. So yeah, the way the room reservation is set up, we'll always start 15 minutes past, and we have a 15-minute buffer on the tail end to
Just
transition
in case it
out.
runs over.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll go for about an hour, hour 15. Then we'll have Q&A, and then we'll have time to kind of debrief and transition out of the room for the next group.
Okay.
Yeah. And plus, with the library opening at 9 and me having to get set up,
Right. I was parked in the back at first, and then there was the guy. I think he's around the other way where the computers are. So I started walking and I said, well, how do you get into this place? So he said, you're on the back. Asked him, are there any parking spaces? So first I drove around to the front, and that's when I seen you standing out. They looked like they would have let you in a little bit earlier to get set up or something.
Yeah, maybe the doors, I'm thinking they're set up on timers, so yeah, they're real strict about 9.
Oh.
So yeah, the good thing about the upcoming workshops, this is the only one that's at 9. The rest are like 10 to 12.
Oh, okay.
And then the one on March 11th, that one is actually 2 to 4 because that 10 to 12 was booked up.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so we are 1 minute shy of 9:15, so I'll go ahead and get started with my introduction, and the rest who registered, they can just come in when they do. So I know we just, introduced ourselves to each other, so you're not familiar with me. I appreciate you for coming out. Good morning. You can sit wherever you feel comfortable.
Cool.
This is Bradford. He was here last
Hi,
week.
Bradford. How are
Hello.
you?
And I have a live stream going on over there, just FYI.
Look at you.
You doing well this morning?
Huh?
You doing well this morning? I like this one.
Thank you. I didn't know what the weather was going to be, so.
Yeah, it's supposed to get a little warm later, so, but I don't know how cold it is going to be in here. So Bradford, this is Ollie Bradford. So,
Pleasure's all mine.
yeah, so we wanted to be interactive. So last week, everybody got to know one another, and you would think that they knew each other before coming here. So I was happy about that. So I want to continue that same kind of vibe in here. So since you're not familiar with me, my name is Janae Murphy. I am the principal financial consultant of M.A.N.A.G.E.R Investment Solutions, a company that I founded alongside my mother. And what I do is I teach people that it's not how much you have, but what you do with it that matters. And so Be a Better Money Manager is a financial curriculum that I've developed myself based on what has worked for me. When I say that it's not how much you have, but what you do with it that matters, I know what it's like to make over $50,000 a year. I know what it's like to make a little over $30,000 a year. And that happened all within the last 6 years. And in each instance, I enjoyed the same quality of living simply because I knew how to manage my money. So I shared my story a little bit last week that, at the age of 18, I started building credit because I noticed some decisions that my dad had made that unfortunately impacted my family in a negative way. So I decided to do the opposite. So at the age of 18, I started building my credit. And in 2014, just 2.5 years ago, I bought my first home at the age of 25. And I've been able to, pay off my car loan in half the time. And now I'm able to do things like this to share, what I've learned with people, especially people in my age group, that millennial population. So I created this with them in mind, but of course it's open, to everybody. So today is the second installment of the 8-part series about assessing your savings plan. And so just to kind of recap, in the last workshop we learned about the true meaning of a budget. A budget, that word has a negative connotation to some people, but it's really just a tool to help you with achieving your financial goals. We learned about the importance of setting goals, writing them down. We learned about the SMART acronym, how to incorporate our goals into our budget, and the difference between needs and wants, so that way we're mindful of how we're spending our money. So this is the topic we'll be doing today. And I apologize if you online, it's a little bright, so you may not be able to see the slides, so just make sure you're listening attentively. Um, so today we'll be talking about assessing your savings plan. And these are some of the objectives for today's workshop. So if you are not currently saving and you need help with how to get started and how to be consistent with it, we'll go over some strategies for that. We'll talk about what I like to call the levels of saving and the type of saving funds you should have. And then also how to create a savings plan based on your financial goals. All right, so this is a known fact. This was actually published in a survey done last year. So 69% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. And out of that 69%, 34% have no savings at all. And that's just Americans in general. Does that surprise any of you? And if you look at the millennial population, that 25 to 34, it's 67%. So not far off from the overall average. And out of that 67%, 33% have no savings at all. So what are some reasons why that we're not saving? So one of them is living beyond our means, the classic keeping up with the Joneses. You know, you see people, they live a certain lifestyle, and we're attracted to what we see. So wanting to reenact that and have that for ourselves will cause us to spend money we shouldn't, but because we're trying to, you know, have this certain lifestyle, have this certain image, line up with what we're attracted to, it'll cause us to, you know, get wrapped up in those cycles. So people are influenced by, you know, their age group and even what they see on TV or even social media. And so that'll cause people to, you know, make decisions that's not necessarily the best decisions. In my personal opinion, I think there's a gap for some people between the cost of living and their salary and the money that they earn. Virginia is kind of in the middle, in my opinion. I'm originally from New York. So in New York, I know when my mom moved from here back to New York, her salary doubled, but her cost of living tripled. And so in some cases, you know, because people's earning potential may not be at the level that it needs to be able to afford a decent quality of living, I think it kind of sets them up for failure, which causes them not to be able to save because they're strapped just too tight. Another reason is if somebody thinks that they can't do it, most likely they won't try. We know that our thoughts become our behavior. And so if somebody, you know, they may not make a lot of money, but that doesn't mean that they can't save. But, you know, they may not even be willing to try or at least take the steps to at least try it out to see if it could work for them. I'll give you an example. When I transitioned from corporate to a nonprofit and took a $18,000 pay cut, I was so concerned about just, you know, maintaining and staying above water. I didn't even think about saving. Even though I was an avid saver, at my previous job, I was just like, as long as I maintain, I'm fine. Well, when I actually started to look at my budget and, you know, go through the steps that I teach people on how to save, I actually was able to save and didn't even know it. And that's simply because I didn't think that I could, given I was used to living this way and now I'm living this way and I have more expenses because I have a mortgage. But just taking that time to go through my budget and to see where it is I'm really at, how much room I actually have, I actually was able to save, not at the same level of course, but I still was able to save a good amount each month. which is important. And also, those that struggle with consistency, you know, they may start, stop, they may do it for 2 months, and they may even dip into the money to use it because things come up. That's another reason why it can prevent someone from being consistent with saving. And so here's some more reasons. This is some research that I found. So I'm sure it doesn't surprise you again. 44% of people spending on lifestyle purchases. So again, that's that classic keeping up with the Joneses and trying to maintain this image.
Is that a race? Is it a race breakdown? I'm pretty sure you probably omitted that.
Well, no. SunTrust actually conducted this survey, so I'm not sure if they collected race and ethnicity information.
Okay.
But yeah, that would be interesting to know. And you'll see 68% of people said that they dine out. When I go over budgets with people, you know, that's usually one of the biggest expenses that people have. And it's simply because, again, you'll see at 33%, they just lack the discipline to, you know, pack a lunch or meal prep or cook at home. And because fast food and, you know, just picking something up on the go is so convenient, it makes it hard for them to basically put in the time so that way they can avoid spending that money. And especially, you know, a lot of people now, they work long hours, they work multiple jobs, and so, you know, they'll use that as their excuse of why they can't. But you can do anything you make the time and want to make the time to do. But the good thing I'll say, it was good to know that over half of people are saving for retirement.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked at that.
Yeah, because you rarely hear about, because it's so much focus on the short term and, you know, what's going on now. So a lot of people, they forget about the future. So that was really,
So that's, okay, did you see, okay. So it's 75,000 or more,
yeah.
annually. So those people have a different mindset. I guess if they would have just did maybe, you know, just overall, just the
Yeah.
overall, it probably would have been less.
Yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, you bring up a good point, Bradford. So this research is just on households that make over 75,000. So not necessarily. So it could be one individual, but household is just those collectively living in the home. So that's another thing to keep in mind. All right, so when it comes to spending, the way our brains are kind of wired, and we're very emotional beings, so a lot of decisions that we make, if you think back on, you know, the last time you did something, it had some type of emotional component attached to it. I know you were sharing earlier about how, you know, somebody may come to you with a story and it tugs on your heart and you want to help them. And so as a result, you know, you'll release money to be able to help them. The same way works, you know, if you are on your way home and you may pass by a store or something and you may not be thinking about spending any money. But say, for instance, like I know sometimes I'll drive down the Burnham and I'll smell Popeyes. And if I'm hungry, it's like, that smells good, let's go to Popeyes. But, so our brains are kind of wired to kind of take in what's around us, and then that sets off a reaction in our brains that causes us to make certain decisions. And so that food thing, not only do you have your eyes working to spot the Popeyes, but you also have your sense of smell working. And so they work together, and, for the person who's not disciplined, they can end up going to Popeyes to buy or spend $5 to $10 when their original mindset was just to go home. The same way if you're in the mall and you may just be walking around just enjoying the nice weather, and if you walk past the store and you see they got a sale, you may walk in, you may not need anything because your closet's full, but because you see sale and the color red is actually supposed to create urgency in our minds, and that's why clearance signs, most of them, all of them, are red, because it sets off that reaction that, oh, this is urgent, let me go see this, and it'll cause us to spend money that we may not have planned to, and then that can set off a domino reaction as far as us being able to pay our bills, us, being able to save the way we would like to, etc. And so these are some of the emotions that advertisers will appeal to. We know that marketing, advertising, that is a huge industry because that's generally how companies get consumers to buy into their products or services. And so, Super Bowl time, those commercials cost a lot of money to be able to get airplay for the simple fact that a lot of people are viewing the Super Bowl, which means that if they're able to get a slot during that time, more often than not, that'll create a lot of, potential revenue for these companies, especially because a lot of these commercials are comical. And I know, I'm not a football person, but I'll watch the Super Bowl for the food, just for the overall action, people yelling and stuff like that, but also the commercials, as well as the halftime show. So the commercials are, people are looking forward to seeing funny commercials. They're watching them and they're laughing at them, but at the same time, it's playing on these emotions which the advertisers want to do. And because you're approaching it as, I just want to watch a commercial, you may not realize how these commercials are playing on your emotions. So by bringing that up, now you know that it's supposed to work that way. Like it's supposed to, appeal to, whatever is going on the inside. So when you have this reaction where the commercial is off and it may be 2 hours later, a day later, and something's still stuck in the back of your mind, and you may, want to take advantage of whatever that was. Like say for instance, it was a food commercial like McDonald's. You may be thinking about McDonald's and going to spend money at McDonald's, and you may not understand why, but once you realize that it's created to appeal to your emotions, and then when your subconscious mind begins working in the background, you'll continue to run that information in your mind because it's now stored in your brain. And so when you think about McDonald's 2 days later, it's not because you want McDonald's, it's because you were exposed to something that, got planted into the back of your mind. So that's something to keep in mind, so that way you don't fall victim to your emotions and some of the thoughts that you may have, but so you can understand that it's meant and designed to work that way. So I know one thing we talked about is this desire to look our best, to appeal to others, to uphold this image. So you'll see commercials that'll play to that. So those people who, deal with low self-esteem, they may end up going to spend all this money on, these clothes or this car just to try and, change the dynamic of the response that they're getting. But it's not necessarily what they need. What would you say?
Feel better. To feel better.
Exactly. But we know that that's temporary and not long term.
One of my downfalls is never go to the grocery store hungry. I will buy
That's a good
things that I don't normally buy. So I usually try to eat before I go in the grocery store.
That's smart, yeah. Because again, emotions cause us to spend money, so that's a great observation. Has that ever happened to you?
I wouldn't sell it out, but well, yesterday I kind of, like, I was like 50% wanting something sweet, and I was like, I want something sweet, but I don't know what, so I ended up buying, something I shouldn't have bought, but it was okay. I was halfway there, so all I needed was a brownie with some natural walnuts in it to easily convince me. I'm a sucker for brownies, you know.
Sounds good.
So, me and my niece, we're brownie freaks. And my niece is like 13, she turns 14 in March. And you know, kids are very big on sweets, so she likes brownies with the nuts in it and caramel. She likes anything that adds more sweetness to us. I see you, so we be fighting on the brownies. That's all good.
That's funny. So I'll share an example. So full-time, I work at the Boys and Girls Club at the administrative office. And so my coworkers, they know that I like to save money. You know, I talk and educate people on how to save money. So I had these coupons in my wallet for McDonald's and Hardee's. And so I know my coworker, she likes to go out to eat a lot. So I'm like, you know, if you want to go out to eat, a lot of times you're trying to figure out where you want to go. You know, here's some coupons. If you get hungry, go to one of these places, you'll spend less money. So she was laughing, but she took the coupon. She ended up going somewhere else. But I ended up going to, like, I was out, I was hungry, and I think, yeah, last week, I do meal prep, but usually I'll cook 2 meals for the week, but I had only cooked 1. So I wanted some variety, and at the same time, I wanted to kind of extend the food that I had in my refrigerator to the end of the week. So I put these coupons in my wallet so that way, when I did go out, I didn't spend as much money as I would if I didn't have a coupon. So like I had a coupon from McDonald's, I get a free small fry and a free small drink with the purchase of a M.A.G.E.R. A M.A.G.E.R was like $2.62, so I got a whole meal for less than $3. And so when I came to work the next day, I was like, I went to McDonald's and I used my coupon, and guess how much I paid? And I was like, less than $3. She was like, what? Shut up. I was like, yeah. So it's like you can kind of make allowances for your mistakes ahead of time. But had I not, I probably would have spent like $5, $6, which may not seem like much, but if I'm going to Hardee's and McDonald's, that's potentially $15, and I ended up spending like $8. So it makes a difference.
You see, that's the benefit of being a senior, because I can go to Wendy's and I'll spend $1.05. I get a senior drink, which is free, and then I will get then I get a sandwich, which is the $1.05, the 99-cent sandwich. So I have got a sandwich and a drink, and I only pay $1.05.
That's good, and I'm glad you said that, because again, you know that you can get a senior discount at Wendy's, but there may be some fast food, you know, restaurants that don't offer that, which means you'll end up paying more money. So go where the deals are, and you can, like, if you know you're somebody who likes coffee or who likes sweets, you know, you can do some prep work ahead of time because you know it's coming. So it's better for you to be proactive rather than reactive. I was going through my social media page this morning, and I saw that, you know, one day I had a taste for Philly cheesesteaks. Completely random, but I love Philly cheesesteaks. So I went to Wawa, and I ended up spending like $8 between the sub and the drink. So I was like, okay, I got a taste for Philly cheesesteaks now. So the next time I go food shopping, I bought some steakums, some sauteed onions.
Not steakums.
Yes! And some sub rolls. So if I ever had a taste for cheesesteaks, I had everything I needed to make my cheesesteaks at home. Plus I found some dairy-free cheese, which tastes like regular cheese.
No comparison. I'm from Philadelphia. No, they can't even compare.
Oh,
Nothing
yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Wawa's, no.
Yeah, Philly steaks, they're something serious. So yeah, I had everything I needed to make my cheesesteak, and it lasted me for 2 to 3 days, and I spent less than $8. And another time I had a taste for hibachi, so I bought some rice and got some onions, got my chicken, and so got in the kitchen, and that also lasted me 2 to 3 days. And if I go out to a hibachi restaurant, I'm paying between $15 and $20. So,
Plus the tip.
yes. I'm not as generous as some people, but I do leave something.
Let me leave a note.
No, I've never left a note, never. So again, awareness is power. The greater the awareness, the greater your power. So the more you know, when you're feeling some kind of way, you know exactly what that is. Versus, you just being completely caught off guard, and you're like, let me go with this, whatever I'm feeling. Let me do whatever it is, I'm being pulled to do. You know why that's happening. All right, so getting started with saving. So this is for those of you who may not have a savings plan in place or a savings practice in place. My tip is to pay yourself first. Before you pay your bills, before you give money away, pay yourself first. That way, if what you have left over is what you have left over. So, we're wired to make adjustments as we need to. But at least if you get this out the way, you at least know that you have something for yourself for all your hard work the last 2 weeks or the last month, however often you get paid. So you can choose a percentage. I recommend at least 10% if you can, or you can choose a dollar amount that's comfortable with you. Now that could be $20, it could be, I used to say $500 a month, depending on where you are financially. You can just choose a dollar amount. So don't stop at the 10%.
And see, I did just the opposite. I would make sure my bills are paid, then what's left, after food and everything else, then I would put that away. But
Yes.
it's always my bills had to be paid first.
Yeah, and I can definitely understand that, and that's why I recommend the reverse, because if you, number one, and this is what we talked about last week, you want to do your budget to see how much your bills are, because you could have a lot more room than you think you do. And so because if you pay your bills first, whatever you're left over with, if you go grocery shopping, you may spend $100 more than you may need to, picking up things you want, and that money could have went into your savings. So this is why I say pay yourself first, but you need to go through the process of doing your budget, see how much your bills actually are, and once that you figure out that it's less than the amount you make, you pay yourself first. All your bills get paid because you've looked at your budget and you know what that number is and what's left over. Maybe you tweak your budget, or when you go grocery shopping, to buy in bulk as opposed to going to a Kroger or a Wegmans.
And I only shop once a month for groceries.
Okay. And I'll say too, I noticed that when I was, making more money, when I went grocery shopping, I was spending between $150 and $250 a month just for myself.
Wow.
And when I moved into my house, I'm going through my pantry and I'm throwing out stuff that was dated 2014. Stuff I never even used, because I would go shopping, I would buy 3 of this, 4 of this, because I'm like, I don't ever want to run out. But it's like my taste buds change over that time. So I had like breading for like fish, and I don't even eat fried fish anymore, so I'm throwing that out. I threw out cornbread boxes.
I do that.
My hot sauce, because I don't eat hot sauce, so I had it for people that come over, mainly my cousin. The hot sauce turned green, so I'm throwing stuff out. So people who come to my house that know me well, they have this joke, what's the date on whatever it is I give them. Because, I mean, condiments, like, I don't keep ketchup because ketchup expires several times over in my house. I threw out ketchup bottles, mustard bottles, marinades. I mean, I just threw out all this stuff. I literally had maybe a trash bag and a half of stuff that I didn't finish, or, you know, it was full and it just expired. And so, saying that to say, when you focus on just buying what you need, you know, I can spend $50 and that lasts me 2 weeks. And some people are like, how is that possible? The way I'm set up, I snack a lot and I just need meat and a vegetable. And I drink water. So this $150 to $250 that I thought I needed for groceries, and after throwing out all that stuff, I'm like, hold up, wait, why, you know, am I spending all this money just to throw it in the trash? Like, what is it that I actually need? So now I buy for what I need, not so much for what I think I'll need later, because it's just going to expire in my house. So yeah, pay yourself first. Make yourself a priority. Plus you work hard, and you know, you just deserve it. And you never know what may come up later.
I know, but I see so many people that don't pay the bills, and then they have all these restless nights. You know, I can't sleep because I owe this, I owe that. You know, so I always say I'm not going through that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to do that.
That's good. Yeah, that's not a good spot to be in.
Look at yourself as a bill. I mean, if you're like bill oriented, you know, you pay all your bills first. Think of yourself as a bill. Because once you pay that bill, you're gonna get that money back, right? So, but that bill is paid. So you think of yourself as a bill. And how much do you want to, pay yourself as a bill? And that way, it's still going to the savings. But if you're bill oriented, that's a way of looking at it. Okay, well, I'm a bill, so I'm $100, per paycheck or something, and maybe that works. I know when I first started savings, I used to, I would get a money order, and I would get a money order for that amount, and don't put it in the bank. I would actually put it in somewhere in my house or whatever. Therefore, because if it was just money, I could easily spend it, but a money order, I got to, just got to do a little bit more steps. I had to actually go to the bank, cash it, or some banks, you got to wait a day or two. It's just another step before you could actually just, as opposed to if it was $100, I could just, I need this $100 a day, so just go to the store. So I had to go to the bank. So that kind of actually made me save a lot more in the beginning, because I was like, I got this money, where I know what I don't really need. I can wait to whatever, So that was a way that helped me out.
You see, my problem is the more I save, the more I give away. That's I was telling you that's my problem. It's not so much that I can't save or I'm in a bind, or just that when I save money, it's people know that you can go to her to get money. You can go to her if you're in a bind.
Family's taking your money out.
Yes, and it's family. It's
They
family.
beat you up. They know
Yeah,
you
exactly. So
They know
even
they
if
got
I
you.
save, it's not going to do it good because I'm going to give it away. I'm going to, I can't pay my
One of the things
bill because of this.
you want to say is, I don't have any money to spare. That's the key word, spare.
I haven't learned that yet. Yeah, I've got to learn that. I've got to learn that. I haven't learned that yet.
We're gonna work through it.
I've got to learn that. And the thing about it is, my husband and I have been so successful in life. We never struggled. We bought 11 homes. This kind of stuff. But it's always family that think we have all this money, and they always. Everybody come with a sad story. My husband said, you're going to be in the poorhouse. Keep giving people the money, we're gonna be in the poorhouse. And I can't say no. I just can't say no.
Do you feel obligated to help them?
Yes.
Why?
Because they're not as fortunate as we are to accumulate the things we've accumulated. So, and it's also my children also, just one. I have two children, but it's always this, you always have this one. And it's always this one, it's like, she has a good job, but she has no money management skills. She'll go out.
Is that her fault or yours?
That's her fault, but because they were taught coming up, how to save, how to do this, how to do that. We've been good examples for them. My two sons are fine. They'll give us before they take from us. But just this one daughter, she'll go out and buy a $75 or $100 pocketbook and she gets paid rather than pay her bill. And she has a daughter. And, my husband and I always said that we would never see our grandchildren without, but, I don't know, and this is just something I struggle with,
Do you think you're really helping her by giving
No,
her?
and I know I'm not. My mother keeps telling me you're not helping her when you give her like that. But just this past week, she was getting ready to get evicted from her apartment. So I had to give her $1,252 for her to stay in her apartment. And this is not the first time. This happened back in July again, and I told her that I was not going to have her again. So this is what I struggle with.
So what if you didn't have the money to give? Like, what if you really
Didn't have the money to give?
Yeah.
And she would have to come and live with us. And that I don't want. I'd rather give the money than have her come live in my home. You know what I'm saying? Because it's chaotic. She's very chaotic. Come in all different times of night and see, you can't do that living with me. And we told my husband, I told her that. When you live in this house, you have to live by our rules. You can't live by your rules. That's why you need your own place. So.
And she's an adult.
She is 47 years old. That's old.
I agree.
And she has a good job. So, it's crazy. It's just crazy. The next time, I'm going to come to the next time, I'm going to see if I can get her to come.
I think she needs to be here.
Yes. I'm going to see. She'll give me all these reasons why I don't need to go to no seminar. I'm fine. She's in her head. She thinks she's fine. But I'm gonna try my best. I mean, she come up in here, she gonna come up here and look like a glamour girl. The hair, she'll probably go out and buy her a $100 outfit. This kind of stuff. This kind of crazy stuff.
I'll say that, I definitely understand wanting to help those around you. But at the same time, until, like you said, by no means is she coming in your house.
Right.
So you're prepared to do whatever to make
And
sure.
she knows that. She already knows that. She already knows that.
So until giving out the money becomes just as much of a priority for you as her not coming in the home, it's going to be really hard to.
You see, my husband just he said, let her sink, let her fall, let her go down and drain, But
I think there's a happy medium, but
I can't do it.
I think there's a happy medium. But yeah, it is gonna, take some work on your part, to be able to have those conversations with her. And if she's not getting it, having her learn the hard way. Growing up, my mom, she did everything. Like, we didn't have to do chores, we didn't have to clean. She picked up everything. And then when we got 18 and we started working, she turned around and says, oh, y'all need to start cleaning up the house. And y'all need to help pay the rent. And I'm like,
a shock, right?
yeah, and I'm like, where is this coming from? And so, we fuss with her because it's like, you've been doing this for 18 years. Why are you switching up now? So sometimes as children, we get used to our parents doing for us, And so even though we need the lessons, the timing of it and how it's introduced or presented makes the difference. But when I moved out on my own, I struggled to clean my apartment and now clean my house because I wasn't wired to clean. So I don't clean very often. And because my house is so big, there's a lot of places that I just don't touch. But I wish my mom had made me clean as a child because, you know, my house would always be spotless. I wouldn't have to take a whole day or a whole weekend to clean. But unless she, you know, made that time to make it a priority and to teach me even how to cook, like allrecipes.com, that's my statement because I'm not one of those people that don't have to measure. My mom would say that all the time, but she didn't teach me that. But as much as you're able to teach and, you know, let go so she can learn, you know, it's just a matter of seeing that that's going to help her in the long run versus short-term fixes.
And see, I was just the opposite. Oh no, they had to clean. Rooms had to be spotless. My youngest son, he started washing dishes at the age of 5. I would put a little stool up there. He would get up there, and my boys are immaculate. That's why the wives, they hold on to them. You don't find men like this, you know, that keep a house clean. But they tell them, oh, I don't live in no filth. So that was the thing I taught. But then coming up, we gave them everything. You know, they had to have name brand clothes going to school, name brand shoes going to school. So they got used to that. So, you know, as they got grown, boys, they did well. My oldest son, he drives tractor trailer. My youngest son works for a company somewhere, I don't know, Boston or something. Anyway, they make good money. Daughter makes good money, but she just don't know how to budget and you know, to do enough to do what she needs to do. She just doesn't know.
But yeah, just be careful that you're helping and not enabling. Because the more you enable, the more, you know, it'll be hard for her to make change.
And I told her, I said, if me and your father eyes closed tomorrow, you're in trouble. Because who's going to help her? If she get kicked out, who's going to help her? Nobody. My son's already told her, we're not helping you. We keep telling mom and we let you fall, but she keep picking you up. We're not going to help you. Something happened to her, and Dad, we're not helping you. So I keep telling her, help yourself now while you have a safety net. Because one day that safety net will be gone, and then what are you going to do?
Exactly. So we talked about not stopping at the minimum, which was the 10%, but just continue to push and challenge yourself to save as much as you can. So with saving, to set yourself up for success, I recommend opening a savings account at a bank that's not connected to your checking account, because one thing I found is that it's easy to transfer money from your savings to your checking if you feel the urge to spend money. And so that's counterproductive. So
repeat that again. Don't do a savings account at the bank that you have a checking account.
That's correct.
Oh,
so like
so
my
that's
checking
something
account, my checking account is with Wells Fargo. My savings is with Virginia Credit Union.
Yes.
So Wells Fargo is like McDonald's. They're on pretty much every corner within a 1 mile radius.
Right.
So if I have a savings account, and I had their way to save, where we talked about that last time, where every time you swipe, you get $1 transferred.
Yes.
But I noticed I kept transferring money back and forth, so it really wasn't helping me. So my emergency fund, which we'll talk about later, is actually at Virginia Credit Union. And so if ever I get the urge to spend money, I actually have to go to the bank to take the money out. And by the time, you know, I work up that energy to get, you know, got to think about going to the car and actually driving 10 minutes out. You know, some people bank at credit unions that's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes out. It's like, do I really want to do all of that? So the harder you make it to access your money, the less likely you are to go for it.
It's a good idea. You just gave me a good idea.
Good, I'm glad.
That's what she does.
Very good idea,
This is
very good.
her field of expertise.
Yeah, very good. Let me write that down.
Another thing too, you can consider opening an account at an online banking institution for a higher interest rate. And I have some examples here. The first one I listed is FNBO Direct. That's actually a company that I have an online checking account with. And their checking account gets 65% interest per year. And that I open, that's like my fund. So I put away money each month. So when I want to travel or go on vacation, that money is already set aside. It doesn't come out of my check. And these are some other banks. And I put up there the annual percentage rate you get for savings and checking if they have one. All of them have both savings and checking options, so you could do either or, except for synchrony.
Capital Ones they have a bank?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it located?
These are online.
Those are online.
Yeah, strictly
Oh, okay.
online. Yeah, so because they don't have brick and mortar locations like the typical banks, that's why they're able to offer
Okay.
a higher interest rate. So the average,
Still ain't hitting all that.
yeah, but it's better than
It's not even-
the average, which is less than 10 point 1%. Yeah, so the average savings account at, Wells Fargo or Virginia Credit Union is 0.06%. So these are a lot higher.
It's very low, 106.
Yeah,
They can't be the selling point.
yeah, exactly. So with these online banking institutions, yes, they're not, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25%, but it gives you more of a return than the typical banks. And because it's online, it's a lot harder to access because there's nowhere you can drive to. So if you want to get the money, you'll have to go through the process of doing a transfer online. Like for mine, I have a transfer from I do the transfer through the online institution to pull it from my Wells Fargo. So if you want to take the money out, you can have them mail a check to you, or you can have it routed to another bank account that you have. So you can access your money, but there's nowhere to drive. Everything's online. And because you have to figure out the process of doing the transfer, again, it makes it harder for you to access the money.
How easy is that for someone to get your identity theft online? That's the only problem I have by doing so much online stuff. I'm afraid of identity theft.
Yeah,
They
I
gonna
understand.
get it anyway.
Yeah.
I haven't got one well.
Whether you do it online or not.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause
Because
if you-
I'll
I don't
say,
do a lot of stuff online. I had 2 granddaughters that had stuff identity theft, and they wiped them out.
I mean, because all these basically, within the last year, everything has been hacked into. So, even if you don't have a bank account online, if somebody breaks into SunTrust Records, they got your information,
Yes.
whether if you bank online or not. So, only reason why I said that is their website is encrypted. It's no different from their website encryption, whether if you bank online or not. It's still encrypted. So if somebody breaks into that institution that you're banking with and they get all the information, even though you never banked online, you're still in their database.
Right.
So
all of these online institutions, they do have security measures, the same way like a Wells Fargo or Virginia Credit Union. If you do online banking with them, they have the same type of security set up. So it's not a higher risk, it's the same level of risk. So keep that in mind. Because I know some people get uncomfortable with online stuff because they're not used to it. But yeah, it's the same level of risk.
just make sure you're not logged. It's like when you're doing stuff online, the main thing is make sure you're using like your own home internet service. Like don't be a Panera Bread and log on online or something, be at a secured server, like somewhere at your home and everything. That's the main thing to worry about.
Yeah, because when you're on a public network,
Yeah.
there's potential for somebody who's accessing that same network to see what you're doing and grab your information. Another thing too, you can look at the URL at the top of your browser. If you see a lock there, you know it's secure. If you don't see a lock, it's not secure. Alright, so when you've committed to how much you're going to save, either a percentage or a specific dollar amount, I swear by automation. So it makes it easy, it takes the guesswork out of it. So you can automate it one of two ways. Bradford touched on one of them. So the first way, you can do it by direct deposit. So if you work the same way you have your paycheck deposited into your checking account each time you get paid, you can actually split up your direct deposit. So you can have it go to checking and savings through your employer. Another way is you can set up a recurring payment through your bank, and that's what Bradford was talking about, pay yourself like a bill. So the same way you pay bills online, or you can go to the bank and have them, pay a bill for you. If you need help with setting up recurring payments, that customer service number with your bank, they can walk you through that. But when you go online, they have it where you can pay bills online. And so you just put in your bank account information, like the name of the bank, the account number, the routing number, and then you can, put the amount in, and you can set it up for how often you want that money to be transferred. And it takes a few days. I know Virginia Credit Union with Wells Fargo, it takes 5 business days. And it deducts it from your checking account right away. So that will make sure for at least 5 days you can't touch it. And then when it actually goes to your savings account, again, you still need to get in the car, drive to the bank to actually get the money. So it makes it harder to access it. So this is something that has really worked for me. When I got my first job out of college, I changed, my direct deposit to have $500 go to my savings every month, and then the rest to come to me. And I did that for 3.5 years because, I got used to working with a certain amount of money. I didn't think about, the fact that it wasn't my whole paycheck, because, what I had is what I had. So by automating it, by the time it hits your account, you may be used to $1,500, but now if you're saving $200, you have $1,300 to work with. You'll make adjustments as long as your bills are getting paid. You can tweak your shopping list, your grocery list, how much you eat out, so on and so forth. So that way you don't go into the negative. So I swear by automation, and it just makes life easy. Some creative ways to save. So if you're somebody who has a lot of change lying around, either in your couch, in your car, you can keep a jar to throw the change in. It's easy, something you don't really have to think about. If you empty your purse or your book bag on a regular basis, just throw it in the jar. You can also save a certain denomination of currency. When the new quarters were coming out, I was saving those. So I have like at least 50 of them. So, okay, so yeah, that's some money. I also saw, somebody I'm following on social media, she's doing a $5 challenge. So every time she gets a $5 bill, she's throwing it into a shoebox. So now she has a stack like this big of $5 bills. So that makes it fun.
I do the dollar, the gold dollar. They have the,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, I remember those. Okay. I haven't seen one in a while. I know they had.
You can get it from the bank. If you go to the bank and request them, they'll give them to you. One time I was doing the $2 bills, then I stopped saying, I just give those to grandchildren. And
I remember those. Yeah, those are fun. You can also take advantage, if you use your cell phone a lot, you can take advantage of free apps and services that'll save for you. So some examples are Digit. Depending on how much you purchase, it'll round up your purchases and throw that into a savings account. It'll monitor your activity, and so as you spend money, it'll transfer just a few cents, so it's not a lot, but you know, you'll be surprised at how much that adds up to be. Acorns is another one. Keep the Change, and I talked about Way to Save with Wells Fargo. So those are some examples of ways you can save. And again, they do all the work for you. Once you get it set up, it's done. You don't have to think about it. Other ways to save money. So this is just a list of some tips that you can take depending on, you know, what works best for you. So simply looking at your budget and figure out where you can cut back. We talked about how eating out is one of the big ticket expense items on most people's budget. So if you can pack lunch or make things at home, so that way you can spend less money, that's one way. If you're somebody who doesn't pay their bills on time and you get late fees or overdraft fees or interest charges, you can, you know, make adjustments to pay on time, so that way you avoid having to pay that extra money. Avoid borrowing or using money at a fee that's talking about like loans, using credit cards and accruing interest because you're not paying the bill off in full each month. So, you know, if you're saving, maybe outside of your regular saving for whatever it is you typically spend money on. Like my fund, I use that for vacation and or shopping. So that money is already set aside. So I don't have to use my credit card for that because I already have that money set aside. So another way is if you have a debt that you are used to paying and maybe you paid it off already, you can continue to make those payments, but send those payments to your savings account. So an example is if you have a car note and you're paying $200 a month, you're used to paying it, you've been paying it for a few years now, you know, after you pay it off, you can continue to send $200 payments to your savings account, and it's something you're already used to doing, so it's not something extra. And it's not more, you know, mad money to spend. Any bonuses you get or money from raises or tax refund, you can throw that into your savings account. I know, thankfully, when I finally got a promotion and a raise at my current job, the difference between my raise and what I was currently earning, that I started transferring to my savings account because I was already used to making this. So before I could get comfortable spending the extra money, I put that in place. Any debts that don't provide a long-term value, so like with your daughter and buying clothes and getting the hair done, that doesn't have a long-term value because weight fluctuates, and so does, you know, we as people. So avoiding, you know, spending money that you don't have and accumulating debt for something that's not going to serve you in the long run. Any high interest debts that you have, paying those off as quickly as possible, because even though you're borrowing one amount, you end up paying a different amount because of the interest that you have to pay for borrowing that money. And then participating in employer-sponsored plans like for retirement, 401ks, pensions, because you're actually saving money there because most companies do a company match. So that's like free money. I know I maxed out the percentage that my previous company offered, so that way I can get as much money as possible. And I made sure I was vested before I left the company. But it was a nice chunk of money that, was just, growing without my knowledge. I mean, I was getting statements, but I really didn't think about it because it was set up, it was done. And now I have money set aside for retirement that I can continue to pour into.
You forgot one thing.
What's that?
Which is something that I do that I know that works, and it kind of goes with people that get the like overdraft charges and stuff. One thing I did that helped me out was actually, because I was experiencing overdraft fees and all that stuff, because I used to work at the bank, so I know how the bank works. I worked there for over a decade, and $1 off can lead to not just one overdraft fee, but it can lead to multiple, because you can have multiple things coming through on a day. So what I did, I started operating off a prepaid card, one of those prepaid Visa, MasterCards, or whatever the case may be, and therefore I use that as my primary source of. I actually had my direct deposits go there, and so that was my primary source of my primary card to use. And with all the prepaid cards, if you don't have the money in there, it's just not going to charge you. Because the bank will allow you off by $25. Cool, we'll pay as long as we'll pay $25, you give us $75. So that's how the bank operates. And God forbid if you have three things coming through at that same night, we'll pay all of them. We'll pay all three of them. Cool, we'll just charge you $35, per item. Where with the debit, with the prepaid card, if you off by 1 cent, it's not going to go through. So that actually helped me out a lot. I hadn't experienced, overdraft charges like 7-8 years. So that worked a lot for me. I mean, I still have a banking account, but using my prepaid card as a primary source of my primary card that I use, that helped me out a lot. So therefore, I could transfer. Then, if I needed to take money out, I could take money out, put it into the savings, and not worry about my savings getting affected by my debit card on the checking and so forth. So that worked out for me. That was another way I actually saved money, because it helped me avoid spending additional money on fees and stuff.
That's good. If you don't mind, I'll add that to the file.
Oh yeah, you're the queen of money. That's just an experience of mine.
That's good. Yeah, because the only prepaid cards I've used was like gift cards. So that's a very good point.
I mean, I've used. I mean, that's one way I've seen the prepaid card as a way of benefiting. And now they have these prepaid cards where you can, they're becoming more acceptable. So you can get direct deposits, you can set up bill pays, you can do everything you can do as if you have a regular checking account, and you're doing the same thing. So they have it so now that you can do a lot more with those. And like I said, they don't charge you overdraft fees. I would recommend that for anybody that has a problem with I actually recommend it to a few of my family members, because I remember when I first switched to, they was cracking them. You got a prepaid card, blah blah blah. I was like, how many overdraft fees you got this year? Well, I only got 3, I got none. So you paid over $100 in fees. So they were laughing at me, but they then I would hear them, man, I got an overdraft fee. I was only off by $1, or I was only off by $3. I said, I said, you cracking at me? I said, guess what? I haven't got no fees this year. Well, I only got 1. I only got 0. So I mean, that's how I use it, to benefit me. And then they end up getting prepaid cards and started doing the same thing. And I said, now, so if you're off, it's just not going to go through. So either you look stupid at the point of checkout where you check your balance, or you look stupid at the bank. Because either way, so.
Yeah,
so,
either you pay for it or you deal with it. Okay. Now, with fees for having the card, do they charge you usage fees?
Different cards, I mean, most of them, if you got a direct deposit, they're not going to charge you anything.
Okay.
Like
I know,
most
like the Rush card, they got some.
Yeah, well, I originally started off with the Rush card, and if I had a direct deposit, as long as I had a direct deposit, it was all good.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I'll make sure I'll keep that in mind when I add it in here. Thank you.
Very good.
All right, so this is what I like to call the levels of savings. So I call them levels because you start at the bottom step and then you graduate to the top. So the bottom step is your life happens fund. So, anything can happen at any point in time. And so we talked about make allowances for your mistakes and kind of planning ahead. So your life happens fund is exactly that. The car breaks down and needs repair, or I brought my car in for an oil change and I had an oil leak that I didn't even know was going on. This is money that's already set aside that you can use, so that way you don't have to use a credit card. That way you don't have to borrow money from family members or take out a loan. So I recommend a minimum of $1,000 because again, car trouble, that could be a couple hundred. It could be, over $1,000. So I recommend a minimum of 1,000. That's a safe bet for anything that could come up. Plus, if anything breaks down in your home, if you're a homeowner, you're responsible for that. So having that money set aside definitely helps. Once you have your $1,000 set aside, then you can graduate to saving for your emergency fund or your emergency savings, and that's just where you have 3 to 12 months of your expenses set aside. And if you earn more money, you should have closer to 12 months of expenses saved because you have so much, to keep up with. So an example is if your bills are $2,000 a month and you earn, I would say, less than $50,000, then you will want to make sure you have 2 times 3 or 6,000 to 12,000 set aside. So that way, in the case you lost your job, you would have 3 to 6 months of your expenses saved, so all your bills can still get paid while you're looking for work and while you're collecting unemployment. So that way you don't get stuck, your mortgage doesn't get in trouble, or you get on the verge of eviction. And if you earn over $50,000, whatever your expenses are, you want to do at least at a minimum 6 months to 12 months. So we want to save more, close to a year, if you earn over 50. If you're under 50, 3 to 6 is safe. Now this is something that, because it's such a large amount of money, that's why I recommend it at least 10%, because if you're doing $25.50, it's hard to save $25.50, every 2 weeks and eventually get to 6,000, 12,000. So 10%, that's a few hundred. But even if you do a specific dollar amount and you're saving more, it's easier to get to those $1,000 milestones. And then targeted savings, because this is optional, that's why it's the last step or the last level. So this is when you have something specific in mind. We was talking about financial goals last week. So this is if you have specific things in mind that you want to save for, like a house, a car, a vacation, college, retirement, and this is depending on what it is you want to save for, you'll have a specific dollar amount in mind. So that's something you're constantly be striving for. With me saving $500 a month for 3.5 years, I knew that, at some point I wanted a house of my own. That's why I started building my credit at the age of 18. And so when I got enough money to, save at that level, I made sure that, I took steps to make sure that money was there. So that way when I bought my home, I had more than enough for a down payment, and to do my inspection, and to do my earnest money deposit. But that money was available. I didn't have to scramble. I didn't have to wait to get my tax refund. That money was already there. And then when I got in the home, when I had to buy stuff for my yard, I had the money available to go to Lowe's and pick up whatever I needed. And when I needed to get, doors patched up, I had the money already set aside for that. So it helps to have a cushion, because the worst thing, you can go through is needing to get something done or needing to pay out some amount of money and you simply just don't have it. And I used to be the bank in my family, so you know, having enough money for yourself and others helps too. Yeah, because I was in a car accident back in 2006, you know, thankfully everybody was fine, but I got a huge settlement from that. So that helped. So when my brother was in trouble with his business and he needed to pay back a loan, I was able to lend him, you know, a few $1,000s to be able to get his bills straight, and he was able to pay me back. And even with that loan, it was a large loan, but I still had enough money for my down payment, so I was still okay, and I was still able to help. So that's important. You need to make sure that you're okay, and that way, even though you're helping others, you don't want to put a strain on those relationships because they may not be able to pay, you know, the way they need to. Because unfortunately, even though I was able to give him that loan, my other brother was driving, you know, the ice cream truck. I talked about my dad being the Mississippi franchise. My brothers kind of followed in his footsteps. So unfortunately, my younger brother was in an accident, and so the whole truck was just demolished. So they didn't have the ability to, you know, make money anymore. But, you know, he still, you know, paid back what he could. He did pay it back in full, but it took a lot longer. But had that been everything that I had, and I was trying to get a house, I wouldn't have a way to. And here I am trying to do something nice and be there for my brother, but it's hard to do that and not, you know, make sure that you're in a good place. So even though that accident happened, I was still okay regardless, thankfully. And, you know, I was able to say, you know, just pay back, you know, as you can. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You know, I'll take whatever you give me. And so there wasn't a strain on the relationship. He appreciated it. And I wasn't stressed out trying to figure out how I'm going to get this money to buy my house.
That would be fine. If, like I said, with your brothers, they did pay back, which is fine. But this, I'm never being paid back.
Yes.
You know, and I don't look for it back because I know it's not coming.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like, we established up front that, you know, he would have to pay back. In some cases, you know, you can give away money, but never lend out what you can't afford to give away. So as long as you're fine with giving it away, you know, that's one thing. If you are not fine with giving it away, you probably should not give that money out.
Well, it's understanding that it's a loan, but if something is a loan and never coming back, what did that turn out to be? It's not a loan if you're not paying it
Yeah,
back.
if you give the money. So yeah, if you're not comfortable with giving the money away, so I would not, you know, based on how things have gone already, I wouldn't expect anything back. So unless I'm comfortable with just giving the money away, you should not give that money away. And that's just a, you know, mature decision that needs to be made. And I know there's a lot of feelings attached, especially with it being your children. You know, if it was, you know, shoe on the other foot, if it was my child, you know, I would want to, you know, move mountains for them. But it comes a point where, especially at her age, somebody has to teach them, and if it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. So why not you?
I don't have it to spare. That's how I learned to deal with stuff. I don't have it to spare. I don't have any spare money on me.
I tell people I don't lend out what I can't afford to give away, so I'm not comfortable giving this away, so I'm sorry. Seriously, because I mean, we will always have, you know, those who are in need around us. That's just a given. And we are, you know, to some degree supposed to give to those who are less fortunate, and I support that. You know, I'm very charitable, But at the same time, I'm not gonna do it to a point where it's a detriment to me, because that's not the way it's designed to be. We're supposed to be, have, so that way we can give some and also take care of ourselves. So for it to, that burden to be placed on one person or one household, it's just too much. So last week we talked about SMART goals, and this is the acronym: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And this is just the model that is recommended when you're creating goals. So that way, it's very clear what they are, and so you know whether you've achieved them or not. And so I have a worksheet, because when we talk about savings plans, before we figure out what we're going to plan to save, and I know the colors are a little happy.
Sorry, you color coded them for a reason.
Yeah. When we talk about spending plans, in order for you to know what you're planning to save, or savings plans, you have to know what your goals are. And so the SMART acronym helps you to, again, be specific and very clear about what your goals are. And as you figure out, you'll see on the worksheet, as you figure out what your goals are, you'll have a certain date that you want to achieve them or obtain them, so sort of like your deadline. Then you'll have the target amount that you'll need, and then you can break that into a monthly amount. So for instance, if you want to save for a car that's $15,000 and you want the car in 15 months, that means you'll have to save $1,000 a month. So if that's realistic, you can, in that action items column, start writing down how you plan to save that $1,000. If you go to your budget and you realize that $1,000 is too much, then maybe you'll extend it from 15 months to 30 months. Maybe you'll pick up a second job, or look at creating additional streams of income to bring that $1,000 in. But it really helps. This helps get things in perspective of how much you need to save. And then it's broken out into kind of time frame, how soon you want to do it. So you have your short-term goals, which are less than a year, your intermediate goals, which are 1 to 5, and then long-term, which is over 5 years. So, staying consistent with saving. So, as you think about what your goals are, you can write them down, and then the costs associated with them. And so you want to go through after you've filled out each of the columns and written them down. Does this fit into my current budget? And if not, what amount does? And with the amount that you're able to save each month, so say for instance, $1,000 is too much, and if you extend it to 30 months, that would actually be 500. Maybe 500 is too much. So maybe you want to work the other way and figure out how much can you save realistically. And based on that, if it's $100, then you got to do 100 into 15,000. How long is that going to take you now? And how quickly would you want to save for this goal in order to cross it off your list? So even if $100 may be realistic, and that'll take you a whole lot longer. If you want it quicker, then you have to start thinking, what are some things that I can do to help speed up this process? So again, whether that's getting another job or creating additional streams of income, again, it lays it all out to help you put that in perspective. And you have to ask yourself, because it's going to require some work on your part, if it's not in your budget already, what changes are you willing to make in order to achieve this goal? by whatever time frame that you want to achieve it. So, you know, if that's, you know, cutting out cable or cutting out whatever extra expenses that you have, how bad do you want it really? And what are you willing to sacrifice and give up in order to achieve this goal? So these are some of the questions you want to ask yourself as you go through this process to document your goals. And that'll help with the savings plan.
And that's, one thing my husband and I did once we physically stopped working. Well, we still work a little something on the side because we are retired. But a lot of unnecessary stuff like cable and all the other things that we used to have, we don't need them. So we cut all that out. I'm surprised how much money we started saving. Just, you know, because I know they were paying something like $200 and something a month for cable and all stuff. When we cut that out, that was money that we had, you know, and some other things that we cut out.
Yeah.
And, we were shocked the money that we saved by cutting that stuff out.
Yeah, that's good, especially with technology these days. I mean, with Redbox being $1, if you really want to watch a movie, you can do a Redbox night. There's so many different Netflix. That's one thing I use because I don't have cable. I just have internet, and there's so much that you can stream online. So you really don't have to have cable unless you know you want to watch your shows. But some of these shows, if you're willing to wait a week or two, you can watch them online for free. So once you have gone through the process to write down your goals, the time frame that you want to achieve them, how much it's going to cost overall and per month, and what you plan to do in order to meet that amount. On your budget worksheet, which I handed out last week, and I'll give you one, there is a section that is dedicated to savings. And so I've highlighted that in the screenshot. So this section right here, this is your life happens fund, your emergency savings, and then your specialized or targeted savings. And so once you go through and fill in the other boxes with your living expenses and your income, you'll see how much you have left over, and you can figure out how you want to split or divvy that money up for whatever you're saving for. And that ties everything together from your goals to your budget and how you keep things in perspective. You keep it documented and on paper, and you're actually keeping up with it. So, in order to kind of motivate you to keep saving, you can find a picture that represents one of your savings goals and post it somewhere visible as a reminder to keep your momentum going. Some people like to post stuff on the fridge. I know I've done vision boards so that way when I wake up, it's right in front of me as a reminder. You can put it on your car dashboard, whatever place is visible for you. Some people even do screensavers. Like my vision board is my screensaver on my laptop. So that's another way to just kind of keep it in front of you, especially with the way, you know, life gets busy. You know, we get distracted, and so this is a way you can constantly keep your goals in front of you. And then once you do that, don't stop until you reach your goal or the finish line. And I don't know if y'all seen this movie. Hopefully, it's
That's cool, right?
yes. So they didn't win, but just for the fact that they had a goal to have a Jamaican bobsled team, they went all the way. Yeah. So, all right. Now the survey that I gave you, Ollie, that's just so I can get feedback, because eventually I do plan to turn it into an online course as well as um, workshops that I'll go into companies to do. But once I kind of finalize the curriculum, I do want to do the workshop for free in the community, and so I'll ask for companies to help sponsor that. So this is so they'll know the people who the program has served already. And then at the bottom portion is a testimonial, just what has benefited you from the lesson today, and I'll include that on my website. And Bradford, since you're familiar with me already, if you can go to facebook.com and find this page, or use the Facebook app to find my business page. Number one, hit the like button, and if you're comfortable, post a selfie, and just write at least one thing you learned. And if you're not comfortable with the selfie, just type one thing that you learned, and if you want to use a hashtag, you can use Be a Better Money Manager. And tag me.
I have to give you my website so you can do the same as well.
Okay.
So,
See, yeah.
what's your Facebook address?
It is facebook.com/Miss.Janae.M.
I don't know how to put the thing over the E, so.
It doesn't have the accent on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how to do that.
Alt 130 on a desktop.
It's all what?
You hold Alt and press 130.
Oh, all that.
Mhm.
Okay, just to put it in.
And if you have an Apple, if you hold the button, you'll see letters
The
pop up.
options.
Yeah, choose it.
Okay.
Do you have the Facebook app on your phone already? Okay. So you go to Facebook and you can just search for Miss Janae M. You should see, you may see my personal page as well as this one. My business page has financial consultant at the end of it.
Mine's is the Success Brand on Facebook.
Okay.
So you can just go to facebook.com/thesuccessbrand, and you should see my face up there. And you can just click the like button and all that good stuff.
Okay.
And
I
then,
can definitely do that.
and then when we sit down and eventually network, you can give me some positive feedback. How cool is that?
Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
I got somebody else.
Make sure you put Miss MS, because there's a Janae M.
You said MRS?
No, MS. No. M.S.J.E.N.E.E.M. For those of you on Periscope, if you are not connected with me on Facebook, you can find my page at facebook.com/Miss.Janae.M. That's M.S.J.E.N.E.E.M. Hi, and if you would like to participate in a workshop, the Eventbrite link is on that page. All right, so thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you at the next one next month.